Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. This is the regular city council meeting for August 2nd. Prior to this meeting, we had a special city council meeting, and we adjourned from that about 5:30, and so we've been waiting for 6 o'clock for this meeting to be called to order. We'll and the time is 6 o'clock, maybe about a minute after 6. So we'll go to B, action items, staff presentation by Kathy Jensen, and there'll be a number of presentations that she will go through, and then after her presentation, we'll have some discussion. Each one of them will have a public hearing, and we'll go through that process, and we'll go to that point. Kathy, are you up front and center?
There.
Okay.
Here.
Bob, can you hear us?
I am here.
Very good, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Tonight, the first thing we're going to cover is the certified tax. We just want to give a little background on what we're proposing tonight. This is the notice that went out in the paper. This is required by the state. The amount of the residents, $415,000 is the average that the county gave us, is the average home value in Payson. So if we raise the rates, we're proposing 0.00, gosh, it's not on there. 193, I think it is.
That other number is.
I'll show you in a sec. Anyway, that'd equate to $10.04 per year, or about 84 cents a month on an average residence of $415,000. That's 3.8% above last year's property tax. As we look at, there's different entities in the taxing entities that tax Payson city residents. You can see that Nebo School District is the biggest taxing agency at 76% of the taxes you're going to pay. For Payson, it's about 12%. This is kind of a history of the certified tax rates. You can see that over the years, the tax rate has declined, and that's because we're guaranteed the same revenue we got the previous year plus a little growth. Because as the city grows, the rate shrinks. And it's been a policy of Payson City to try and hold that rate steady so that we don't have significant increases or decreases that other entities are experiencing right now.
One thing that you have mentioned too, Kathy, is that only affects 12% of that county.
Right, right. And that's the presentation on the property tax. Do you have any questions?
No.
Here, not up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to open up a public hearing on this, or?
If you want to go, what's the count you prefer? You want to do each?
Let's just do them separate.
The whole thing, then, no.
Let's just do it separate.
Yeah, we'll have to do it, each one separate, but whether we want her to present them all in a row, or do we want to stop and do each one?
I can either, as the mayor said, I can present the budget portion along with this and then just hold the separate public hearings. Or you could do a public hearing on the certified tax rate, whichever you prefer.
I can let, that's a public hearing.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do that.
Rather than muddy the water, so we know we're talking about different objects.
And that's what, if that's what you like, well,
I move that we open the public hearing for the citizen foundation.
Well, second that motion.
okay, we need to do a roll call vote, starting with Council Prostar,
Yes.
Council Hyatt.
Yes.
Council Beecher.
Yeah.
Council Carter,
Yes.
and Council Christensen.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing on this truth in taxation and certified tax rate. Please, if you come and address us, please state your names clearly And try to be cognizant of the time that you're up there talking to us. And as time goes on, if there's more than one person that comes up, please don't repeat the same information the previous person has made us aware of from their opinion. So we go ahead and open the public hearing.
Come up to the microphone.
Up to the microphone.
Please give us your name, if you would.
Mark Fisher, citizen of Payson. And there's two questions I want to ask you. How much is that going to raise my taxes on my property? On my taxes that I have to pay to Payson, how much is it going to raise it?
I think Kathy just said
I
about
did.
84 cents a month.
A month, okay. Now, another thing we need to think about is, I know we need taxes raised sometimes, but we also need to consider those that are on fixed income and those that don't have the money to pay things. Some of them have a hard time even buying food, and we need to consider that.
Let me try to correct, at least in my mind, on this number. It's the previous tax rate from the previous year. We're keeping it at that same level, and the county is dropping it. But I guess in that regard, it's a tax increase, but it's the same rate we paid last year.
Okay, thank you.
Same percentage.
And you do know, there's a place control where you can go over and they will reduce your taxes like greatly. Because
Again?
there's a place in Provo, and I don't know what it's called, you know what it's called, that you can go over.
It's a Utah County building,
Yeah.
and if you go into, it used to be the Utah County Clerk Auditor's Office, and it's abatement.
And they can help you reduce your taxes way down.
I don't
have
certain
that problem,
if
but
you
I
meet
know there's
criteria.
many that do, and I'm concerned about it. That's why I brought it up. Thank you. Thought you were doing that. Oh.
My name is Les Curtis, and when I read the mayor's letter on June 7th, it talked about the 4 reasons for tax increases, and it looks like this is a different one.
No, it's something that was anticipated all along. We had to wait till the county put out their information so we could see what that was going to be.
Okay, anyway, I'm just a little concerned. At least 2 years ago, the city allowed us to vote for the recreation tax, and I did not vote for it, but the majority did, so that's fine. Last year was a huge property tax increase, and it just seems like every year there's a different entity somewhere that's increasing taxes. So some residents of Payson got together and we went around to do some petitioning. I personally found about 80% that did not want any tax increase. We definitely think you guys are doing a good job with essential services. And if there's money left over, that's fine to pursue, but we're against raising taxes, especially when it's going for Wilson Elementary. If we need extra police officers or things like that, we need to tighten our budget a little, just like everybody else in our private jobs. We can't just expect everybody else to toe the line. So we are asking that no tax increases this year.
It does feel like a tax increase, but it's the same rate we paid last year.
Well, according to your letter, there is a 10% electric department tax.
We're not talking about that at this public hearing right now. It will be later in the meeting.
Oh, I got you.
Just for that.
Then I'll address.
Actually for the place tax rate.
All right, but the petition, and I've got some, I'll give you what.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
When we come to that, then we go ahead.
Those will not be addressed. Those were addressed
We
in
had,
June
we had a public hearing on that last month
That's right.
on those utility rates.
Well, the letter,
Those aren't taxes, those are use rates.
But they're
either way, it's coming out of our pocket,
right.
right? I mean, we can play the game any way we want.
The other thing that maybe you don't know is for the last year and a half or so, we've been using our reserve because we cannot buy the electricity for what we're charging citizens. So we've basically, used that, reserve up, and we have to do what we're doing.
We don't have to buy the Wilson Elementary.
But it's not going to the Wilson Elementary.
But that's 2 million that could be used for these other things. So you don't need to raise the taxes in those regards. There's always a reason why you should and why you shouldn't. We're just saying enough is enough. That other gentleman spoke on, some people have no
Let me
problems.
just stop you right. You're talking about that 10% of power. That is not what we're talking about at this point in time for this public hearing.
So are we gonna discuss that later on in the meeting today?
No, we've already raised that. It's already been taken care of.
Well, the letter you sent, sir, said that you will address this on.
We did. That's the reason we sent that.
So there's no area for.
Public hearing held on that, prior to that, after that letter was sent.
Les, there's another public hearing after this on the budget. You can talk about it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it says here, there will be can I quote this letter? There will be an additional public hearing on August 2nd to consider the property tax increase.
That's what we're talking about.
That's a property tax.
Property tax.
Well, can I let you guys see what this is about all taxes, not all, the whole thing, throw it all in a
They're
big.
not taxes. The use rates are not taxes. They are use rates.
Then why don't we use those use rates to pay those use rates, what would have been gone to Wilson Elementary or other non-essential government expenses? That's all we're saying. It's just, it's limited out as far as what I found was 80% of people that I talked to, no taxes, no increases, no user fee increases, just whatever.
But you can express your opinion and we've also already adjudicated that when you've expressed your opinion, it's in a way.
Well, I thought we were gonna discuss it. According to your letter, it was August 2nd, was gonna be addressed. You want me to let you guys see them? Sure.
You can turn them in right here to the recorder.
All right. We just respectfully saying no more tax increases or, just, you have other areas you can pull from. So we don't need a lot of these non-essential government programs that we can cut. All right, thank you.
My name is Chris Kilmer. I've got a couple of questions for you. How much has our revenue increased over the last 5 years?
Fall back on our financial.
How about the last year? Let's say from 2021 to 2022.
But I don't have those figures.
You don't know that?
But our financial director.
Okay, how much has the property tax revenue increased over that time period?
Again. a
We-
financial director.
How about sales tax revenue?
Now, when you say property tax, we don't have a whole bunch of control over the property tax. We have 12% of that property tax that we have some limited influence.
I'm talking about Payson City property tax revenue. How much has it increased?
Yeah. I have that on the figure.
How about sales tax revenue?
Yeah, I don't have that on the figure.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. Since 2017, Payson City revenue has increased 105%. It was 36 million in 2017. 2022 is $74.5 million. That's 105% increase since 2017. Property tax revenue was 1.1 million in 2017. In 2022 is 1.8 million. It's a 63% increase in property tax revenue. Sales tax revenue, 3.1 million in 2017. 2022 is 5.1 million. It's a 64% increase. We don't have a revenue problem here. We don't.
Sitting in our seats.
I'm telling you, based on these numbers, we don't have a revenue problem. We've got a spending problem. I hope none of you guys are rerunning when you run for election. This is mismanagement. It's either mismanagement or fraud.
Neither.
Well, It's 105% increase in 5 years.
I mean, power has gone up exponentially in cost. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
You're spending money somewhere.
well, you're right, we are, because everything's gone up in cost.
Yeah.
You still pay $1.85 for a gallon of gas.
It doesn't matter what I pay for gas,
Well, it does to us, because we
I
have to
know.
buy it.
but it doesn't matter what I pay for gas, Brett. That's my point.
Okay,
What matters,
but
what
it
I'm here to
matters
talk
to
about.
us. Just a second.
I get
We
it.
can't pick up your garbage every day if we don't raise enough taxes to pay for the fuel.
You raised 105% since 2017.
Sir, we're not gonna get an argument. You're here to express your
What?
opinion.
He wants,
That's fine. I'm in control of this meeting.
okay, so he can say whatever he wants, but I can't say what
I stopped when you told me to stop.
Okay. You've expressed your opinion.
I'm not done.
Well,
I'm not done yet.
okay, please.
Do I have a time limit?
No, I'm not gonna give you a time limit.
Okay,
But I
thank you.
want you to be cognizant of the time.
okay, thanks. I really would appreciate if you guys would be more willing to hear from the public. You guys act like we're the problem,
No, we have public hearings.
but do you know what? Since I've been here, you cut that guy off, right? He had a valid point about he did too. You guys raised the rates on electricity, on water, on sewer, everything. He had a valid point on that.
And we had a public hearing that 2 people showed up to.
No, there was more than 2 because I was here.
Sure you were.
It doesn't matter if that's not what you're covering. He still has a point to make about it. You should listen to him. I hope, this is it, I'll wrap it up. But I hope you guys don't run again, because it is. It's either fraud or mismanagement. I hope it's not fraud. If it's not fraud, then it's definitely mismanagement. You guys are raising plenty of revenue. It's what you do with that money that makes the difference.
Mr. Kilmer, I'd love to have you come in and we'll sit down with, and go over every step of the budget. There's no fraud going on. We'll sit down with you. Come
I'm
in.
not saying there is.
No, come in and sit down.
You are accusing us of,
I said that it's either fraud or mismanagement.
and you're accusing us of one or the other.
Come in and
That's
talk,
a direct quote.
come in and talk with us.
I've looked at your.
Come in and talk with us
annual
so we can
reports.
explain it.
Look, my point is, I'll stay out of your hair. Just quit
We
raising
don't
taxes.
want you just said we wanted to stay out of here. We don't. We want to explain.
I
But
said,
sometimes the time that we have, if people would get engaged on more than just one time, then we could explain it to you.
look, I said, I will stay out of your hair and let you guys do everything you want to do.
Well,
Just
take
don't
advantage
raise
of
my
what the
taxes.
City manager just said, sit down.
I don't have time to sit down with you, but I
Well,
will.
that's the
I'll
problem.
schedule an appointment with you. I'll come and sit down.
We can go over it with you.
But I'm telling you right now, you're making tons of money. It's how you spend it that matters.
Okay.
It's neither one of what you mentioned.
I was just gonna say that the revenue has increased. You're very right. But when we look at utility fees, those are in the enterprise funds. In an enterprise funds, it's like a separate little business. We don't match that money. It has to support its own way. And I think what's tried to be said for the electric, we're using all our reserves. There's nothing left.
And you guys take the extra from.
Let her talk.
It's,
You guys take the extra from those funds and transfer to the general fund and spend them how you like.
What about impact fees?
Impact fees are reported separately and they're given by developers. They can only be used for capital projects. So we don't have road impact fees. We have electric, power, we have sewer,
Water.
and water impact
And
fees.
parks.
And parks, I'm sorry, yes.
Partly paying for both.
Right, and if you look at the general fund, and we're happy to go through any detail you would like, I can go through it now, whatever you would like. We have a number of funds, and each fund, we balance each account, and each of the impact fees has its own fund that we account for it, as well as all the enterprise funds.
But you can change things around, because how much are we proposing to buy Wilson Elementary?
2.7 over 10 years.
So that's 2.7 million that can be put into all these other. I have to pay payment bills. So hence we really don't need these fees or taxes. We have 2.7 million that we can play. Right?
Right.
It's $270,000 and $264,000 budget. Because it's over 10 years, it's only $270,000 a year for Wilson Elementary in a $120 million budget.
But one of
So
the-
I can see the worry that this sounds, 2.7 million sounds like a big chunk. But Wilson Elementary is a nice piece of property that will allow us to do a lot of different things. Right, but you'll benefit from as well.
I just have.
One of the reasons we looked at Wilson Elementary is because our recreation department is getting displaced. They were at the high school and
I know it's hard, there's probably buildings in here that can be used for recreation.
This building that we're currently sitting in has been in discussion to be replaced for the last 20 years, and we keep pushing it down the road because we don't want to raise taxes to replace this building, which was built as a hospital and does not suit our needs at all. And we're trying very hard to get it to go as far as we possibly
Ladies and
can.
gentlemen, we're getting a little bit far away from what the public hearing is.
I can't take. Minutes from the crowd.
What's that?
I can't take minutes when they're just yelling from the.
Right. So please, with this truth and taxation certified tax rate, this is what we're talking about on this particular subject. I understand there's angst on other subjects, but this is designed for just that. We need to resolve that issue and vote on that issue, and then we'll move on to the others that we're going to have public hearing on. So if there's anyone else that would like to respond to the information we just heard about the certified tax, please address us. If it's another issue that you want to talk about, then we'll address that. But please let's address the truth and taxation certified tax. Anyone else want to come up and talk to us about that? Come on up, please.
hello, Mayor and City Council and fellow citizens. I'm Sarah Ogden. I've lived in Payson for 3 years now. Sorry if my voice is shaky. My heart rate's kind of through the roof. I don't envy your position. I have been to a couple of these city councils now, and I couldn't do what you do. Okay, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being the face that nobody wants to be, because I'd be scared to be up there right now. And I fear that you only hear from us citizens when we're upset. And so I want to change that a little bit by expressing first off my gratitude. We have some pretty amazing programs here in Payson. I attended Adventure Days, the Scottish Festival, the Western Heritage Festival, and last night, the National Night Out. That was pretty neat. And I want to say thank you for those activities, but also voice some concerns that I have. Just a brief, like with my family, when we are having hard economic times, we have to set a budget, right? And we think, what can we forego right now so that we can ensure a comfortable and affordable future, right? And that might cut out some fast food, some conveniences, vacations, toys for the kids. They're gonna have to play with their old toys for a little while until we can get back up on our feet. And I admit, as of late, we've been doing that a lot more often, and I don't blame you. It's a lot of factors going into it, but I know you do have some influence in obviously this budget. So I just ask you to consider on those things that maybe we can forego for a few more years. Like, I don't know, perhaps the city center or rec center can wait for a few years. We will survive, we'll be okay without that. If
They
it
are on the agenda, not
okay.
paid for in the next 5
Yeah, yeah. If it ensures more comfortable and, affordable living for us for a few years, we can wait on those fun things that do benefit us. But we really appreciate what you're doing, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you. Anybody online that wishes to talk with us again? Like we have someone that's coming up. Come on up, please.
I'm Randy Lee Spencer. I've been a Payson resident my whole life, and I love this city. Kind of been disheartened a little bit with some of the things around the city that are not beautified. Like our roads are horrible. We get flooded every time there's a big rainfall. I pay for storm drain. We pay for roads. These things are more precedent and to beautify our city than purchasing a building when everybody is already having hard economic times. So all I ask, and I think a lot of us just want our taxes to be used judiciously in the times that we're in. If a recreation center is in the books down the road, great. But let's take care of what we have now with what we've got and make sure our city is beautiful versus having us be taxed on tax on tax for things that we're gonna, yeah, it's a recreation building, and a potential community center, but who's gonna pay for that community center down the road? So we're just gonna have another little bit of an increase here and then another little bit of an increase there. And it's just whittling away at us all. And people on fixed budgets, I work in public service. I understand budgets have different pots that you have to come from. I see the pain and the suffering that some people are going through right in these days. And when they see that our city is going to raise taxes to buy a $2 million building, makes no sense when we're in the predicaments we're in our community today. So all I ask is just use our money judiciously in the time we're in.
Okay, thank you. And just for the record, I'm on a fixed income as well. I'm retired. And I know Linda is as well. So we are cognizant of that very much.
Just as an added comment, we're not getting a lot of gain off the tax increase. We estimated it'll be between $80,000 and $88,000. So that will fund a portion of a police officer. The rest we're absorbing through the budget and trying to be conservative. And I recognize, you know, boy, it's a hard time, and we are trying to stretch the dollar.
Anyone else like to address us on this? Anybody online?
No,
Okay.
Brian's coming up.
In council, unless there's some discussion.
No, Brian's coming.
Sorry.
Brian Hewlett, I just have one thing, since this is about truth and taxation for our property taxes. My property taxes are actually going down, so thank you. Just for clarification, truth and taxation, and the way the taxes are assessed by the county depends on the value of your property. And what the county does is they take that value and they actually decrease it by a percentage. I think it's 45% on a residential home. Then they multiply that out by the current tax rate. When they get to that point and they add everybody up in the city, they say, okay, does that equal what they got last year plus whatever growth we think has happened? That's how this works. That's how truth and taxation works. Our rate is dependent on value of the home, or not rate, but the amount we get is dependent on value for the residents. And when you get all said and done, the county tries to equalize what that is, so that we get the same amount that we got last year plus growth. All we're trying to do is keep the rate the same. That's all we want to do, is just keep the rate the exact same as what it was. Let me finish what I'm saying.
If you have anything to say, we need you to come up to the pulpit so we can.
The tax rate for Payson City will amount to, as Kathy said, less than $100,000 in addition to what we got last year, plus growth. That's it. So this truth and taxation amounts to almost nothing as far as the budget, almost nothing. It's just to keep the value the same and what we are getting. That's all this portion of the meeting is about, is truth and taxation. None of the other stuff is in play right now. That's it. It's just truth and taxation.
All right, Chris Kilmer's. This is an opportunity for everybody's taxes to go down. You're taking away that opportunity. The reason the taxes are going down is because the value of the homes are depreciating. What you're doing is saying, okay, the taxes we're gonna go down. My taxes, we're gonna go down, we're gonna keep them the same. That's a tax increase, no matter how you say it. For me, the amount of money that I would have paid and the amount of money I'm going to pay is different. That's an increase.
Thank you for your comment. Okay.
No.
Come on up, man. Appreciate you coming in.
My name is Laura Noyes. Excuse me. I have to admit, I don't study a lot. I'm starting to. I'm trying to catch up with the Constitution and all this kind of stuff. And I don't understand things. I was just going to give you an example. I was talking to my daughter the other day and she mentioned how in Payson, there's some streets that do not have stop signs. And yet we put up a big kiosk across the street from Walgreens.
Did I address that stop sign issue for you?
Is that needed?
That we have done a study and it is in progress. We can't do all the quadrants at the same time, but we did do a traffic study and we're still in the process of responding to that traffic study. There have been some quadrants that have been brought up to what that study told us. There are still some that we need to address, and we will continue to address.
I realize
We know what we need to do there. We just need to have the time to do it.
the way it's going right now, we're gonna need lots of stop signs and stoplights and everything else. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe the point where we can accept the motion to close the public hearing.
I know the public hearing on this is actually going to be like that. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion second. Roll call vote, regarding the competition. Yes. Carter?
Yes.
Richard? Yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Council Star. You may or may not still have him.
He's still there.
Is he still there?
Bob? Just talk louder.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
That's fine, thank you. The motion carries, so we will close the public hearing on this particular issue. Council, any further discussion you would like to have?
Couple of things. I just know that there is a bill that's headed through our state right now to cut $100 million from our state property taxes to try to help to offset that as well. So hopefully that can kind of help in that direction. I'm hearing you. I know you don't think we listen, but I am hearing, and I don't know if it's, we have to pick something that's above that tax break, and that's really what it comes down to. And the item that happens to be above that tax break is a police officer. So that's where we have to make that decision based upon where the budget lays out. But I mean, if it's what the citizens want, then they don't want us to raise that tax to 85 cents a month, then that's something that we can do as a council. And if that's the direction that we need to go right now, then I can support that. I am fine with supporting the tax increase, as you call it, to get that additional officer, because there is a lot of additional traffic in town. But Just so that you're aware, that's what we're looking at and where we're working.
Thank you, Council. Any further discussion? Bob, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I do. Having gone through the process that we have gone through as a council, having the citizens there tonight pleases me very much, but it saddens me because they weren't there during our work sessions and during our time of working on this budget, that we pained and cut all of the things that are laying on the floor that we did not budget for. I recognize 2 and soon to be 3 council members that are currently fixed income and trying to balance a budget and pay the increased cost of labor, of fuel, of parts, of almost everything across the gauntlet that a city needs in essential services has gone up. Trying to keep our staff and our employees happy and keep them from not going to other communities and keeping a competitive wage scale has been very paramount on my radar this year. And in past years as a council member, I get tired of training police officers and staff and only to see them go to neighboring communities that pay a few dollars more. And so trying to be competitive in that market, trying to keep the rest of our staff not only comfortable in their salaries and in their wages, but also a decent place to come to work. I've been worrying about the heating and air conditioning on that second floor of the building. And I know we've got a few dollars in there to continue to do things like that. Our neighboring communities on both sides of us, Spanish Fork and Santaquin, are both currently in the finishing process of new city buildings. We ache to do that, but we as a council have tightened our belt and have made do with even the council chambers that were scheduled to be completely remodeled. And we as a council determined that that's one area that we could cut and leave on the floor and not remodel. And so I feel bad that the citizenry that is there tonight, and I hear them loud and clear because I'm one also that's soon to be that fixed income. But I feel bad that they weren't there when these discussions were taking place on what we did cut and what did budget through. And for that reason, I'm glad to be a member of the city council currently, and I'm proud of the budget that we have put together. Is it a perfect budget? No, it's not. And I'm grateful for the input of the citizenry. But I'm proud of what we've done with the hard work that staff and council has put together to present to the city tonight. Thank you.
Bob? Any other discussion?
Say one thing.
You bet.
I am also on a fixed income and lost my spouse 2 years ago. I come here twice a month. 2, the gentlemen that we have sitting right here are here every council meeting. And very few other people attend. I could tell you how many times I've been here and sat up here and have not seen one of your faces here. I love this city. I've lived here. You can laugh at me if you'd like, sir. Not you, the gentleman behind you.
You probably changed this.
Pardon?
Are you public shaming me?
No, I'm not public shaming you, but I would definitely like to see your faces at our council meetings. That's all I'm saying. And I know that the other council feels the same. And I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Hey, council, if there is not any other discussion, I'm ready for a motion on the simplified tax rate, truth and taxation. If there's not a motion, we'll allow it to die, but I need a motion.
I move that we hold to the 001193 rate that we had last year.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded. Requiring a roll call vote, Council Prostar,
Yes.
Council Hyatt,
Yes.
Council Beecher,
Yes.
Council Carter,
Yes.
Council Christensen.
No.
Okay. It does carry 4-1. Thank you. Going on to number 2, Kathy would like to come and explain number 2 to us.
Okay, we're gonna go over the budget now, so this is gonna encompass the rest of the public hearings, and we're just gonna present it all at once. First of all, I want to go over some changes since the tentative budget. In the perpetual care, it's a special fund that people pay perpetual care funds to. It's for cemetery fund, but I think it's a trust fund, so trust type fund. The roads have fallen into disrepair. We budgeted last year for roads out of the perpetual care funds, and we were not able to get a bid. When we finally did get a bid, we found that it was so good that we feel like it's better to add a few more funds and finish the entirety of the cemetery roads and get that done. So that's one of the changes. We've added $420,000 from cemetery fund reserves. In the water fund, this is an adjustment. We received an ARPA grant. And a portion of that is coming out of the capital fund. A portion of it is covered by the water fund and a portion from water impact fees. So this is just adjusting for the water portion of that. It was in the budget last year. We're carrying it over and just making sure it's adjusted for in the water fund. In the proposed budget, in the tentative, we had budgeted some funds to refinish the floors of the bathrooms at the pool. And Carl, as the director over the recreation, has determined that it is really important to start working on the Wilson Elementary School. So we're taking the pool funds and transferring the purpose of those and start building some classrooms in the Wilson Elementary School. We adjusted the garbage truck lease for interest. The interest changed just a little bit. We wanted to make sure that was budgeted for. The administration air conditioning has been on the blitz for a couple of years now. We budgeted funds for that air conditioning. It has actually gone up. So we added $200,000 to cover the additional cost of the air conditioning. We budgeted for a transportation fee study in streets of $20,000 for the analysis of road fees. Chief Spencer has requested the ability to pre-order an ambulance. The production of the ambulance will take about 2 years, but we wanted to put that in the budget so we can earmark revolving loan funds for that. And let me tell you a little bit about revolving loan funds. Originally, I think there was a loan fund available for businesses. And due to some problems with that, the city decided to use that for internal services. So if there is a vehicle that is purchased, it's taken from the revolving loan fund, and that department pays back the revolving loan fund plus some interest. and the interest that accrues in that is used to fund other vehicles. So out of that, what we'd like to do is earmark $260,000 for an ambulance for the next in the next 2 years. We added $30,000 for contract inspections. And in order to do that, we cut out a full-time inspector position. And we thought, well, if the economy improves a little bit, and it's necessary, we can look at adding that full-time position later. We added citywide crucial incident software, $15,000 to the police department. The purpose of this is if there's an emergency, the police department can let everybody in the city know that there is a crucial incident. And we feel like that's very important in this day and age with everything going on. Next, we had an automatic rebalance of workers' comp and indirect services. So our indirect services and our workers' compensation is based on the individual budgets. And so every time we make a change to the budget, it's going to reshift. So that's just a rebalancing. Excuse me. We adjusted power revenue to meet projections. We adjusted bank fees administration. Those are going up quite a bit. We rolled over some projects that were not able to be completed in 2023. These are major projects in Kent's budget. He's street, storm, landfill. I think that's it. I can't remember if there's any other programs he oversees. One of the major ones is the BNC, out of the BNC funds. That's 1120 South, 1100 West Bridge project for $350,000. Next, we've added a part-time 4-day attendant, and that's about $5,000 plus in payroll taxes. And that's for somebody to oversee the 4-day. We've had a volunteer doing it, and we just need to compensate a little bit for that big project. We carried over some golf projects that weren't expended last year. The building exterior pathways added $15,000 for pass, and there was an increased bid amount. The golf department is an enterprise fund, so it's self-sustaining. Everything that's spent out of that fund is raised through golf fees. In the storm drain, they received a $2 million grant for box culverts. So we adjusted the budget for that. In the water fund, they received a grant for $343,000 for the Christian Life Church water line. We adjusted for that grant. We rolled over unspent pool projects. Instead of doing the pool projects that was originally slated to be done, the hydrochloric acid tank went out. So they're going to replace that tank with the unspent funds. As noted before, we added the Wilson School payment of $270,000. The property is $2.7 million over 10 years with 0% interest, and that's out of the capital fund. We added $20,000 to the flip the strip for example projects, and I think it's CUP that the correct program is offering some incentives to citizens if they will flip the strip. So we added some as an incentive to show people what it can be done with that. We took out the drone purchase. It was purchased in fiscal year 2023. We left in the software. That's going to allow public works and other entities to fly over the city to be able to do analysis and see what needs to be done. We feel like that was a good purchase. Some employee pay adjustments were made. We elevated just a little bit for foreman projects because we don't have any foreman. It's the director, and then it goes to the hardworking people doing that. So we elevated a few positions just so that they could have a little bump in salary to oversee some of those projects. We updated the impact fee revenue for budgets. Unfortunately, that went down a little bit. The library air conditioning compressor went out, and that's going to be another $18,000. We adjusted the downtown project for amounts we already paid. Some budget highlights. We added market adjustments to individual wages to keep wages competitive, and we increased some part-time wages. We gave department heads what they requested in operational budgets in most cases. We feel that the department heads are the experts in their field. And we have to trust what they tell us they need in the budget. But overall, I think the department heads do run pretty lean on their budgets. We work to distribute capital project and equipment amongst the departments. This is the requested and funded personnel, and you can see the ones with the check mark. Those are the ones that we did fund. The ones in white were not funded. Some important ones, stormwater system operator 1. We needed to add that because we have EPA compliance issues in the storm drain department. And there is a potential of having some pretty significant penalties if we don't keep up on that. The ambulance part-time night coverage. We run on a volunteer department right now. And we're finding that it's just so hard with the number of ambulances and the number of personnel to hit everybody that has needs in the city. A water maintenance trainee to help with the water department. A 4-bay, I mentioned that before, 4-bay part-time maintenance help. Seasonal GIS, that's just a part-time position in engineering to help with GIS needs. A recreational ballparks maintenance and irrigation person. Right now we have 2 people doing all the recreation parks, and it's very difficult for them with all the programming that's going on in the recreation. A parks event seasonal restroom person. And this is a small amount we added because right now the parks personnel are taking care of all the events and they're just running crazy with all the events we have. So we thought to help, and we put in try and get someone to help with the restrooms during the events. We added a parks worker. We're finding that with increased parks, trails, everything that's going on, they're just, again, they're running really thin. We added a police officer. In the water fund, sorry, again, water maintenance training. We did priority projects for fire hydrant repair, broken and additional valves. The 4-bay bond used to come out of the water department. We've moved that now that it is a transfer from the general fund over to the water department to pay for that. The CDBG grant was received for 500 south to 100 west, 500 west. And we put in the Patterson pump station. We added fiber to Spring Lake pump house for SCADA connection and the Salem City interconnect. The Red Bridge well, we're obligated to put in, and that will come out of the impact fees. We put in 1/5 of the cost of that well. And here's an overview of the water department revenue. The budget is $9.622 million. You can kind of see, I don't know what to point out here that would be useful to you. If you have any questions, you can let me know on that. And again, the expenditures to offset that. So this again is an enterprise fund. It has to be balanced. And so we try our best to do capital projects as well as balance that fund. The impact fees that we mentioned before is in a separate fund. It's Fund 47. And we'll kind of put in a scale to show you kind of what we're looking at in the economy. We've had a dip in impact fees. We're hoping that doesn't indicate worse times ahead, but that's kind of what we're seeing. The solid waste. We put in a 5-year lease for a compactor. A refuse collection truck is a 3-year lease. It's actually a 1-year lease. We just got the lease documents and it's going to be a 1-year lease. The solid waste revenue is $4.7 million. You can kind of see the offset there and the expenditures for the solid waste. And one thing, if you ever get a chance, and I don't know if Kent would be willing, but boy, that is quite an operation out there. If you ever go out there, it's pretty slick and what they're doing out there. The electric power. We put in a line truck. It's a carryover from last year. We just had trouble getting it in. We're doing a rate study right now. It's in process. It's wrapping up, but we're gonna bring that forward, the second part of that. We've had significant increases in the cost of purchased power. We've done large capital projects scheduled but not yet funded, including the transmission line, SUVPS participation in bonding, and the power plant. And we're gonna have to bring that forward at a future time when we know exact costs on that. Electric power revenue is 21.5 million. And the expenditures, if you look at the operational expenses of $13 million, that is showing the significant increase in the cost of power that we're having to pay each year. And this is the fund that we have literally exhausted our cash to fund those things. Impact fees again have gone down just a little bit for the power department. The sewer department, this year we're retiring one of the sewer bonds. We're planning on beginning construction on the sewer plant. And we've included the new bonds for the sewer plant. So if you look at the proceeds from borrowing $22 million, we might have to adjust that if they go faster. We're on the time limit to get the sewer plant built because we are under requirements from the state. The total budget is $30 million for the sewer. And again, the offset, and you can see the improvements have been building. That is the cost of paying for the sewer and the increase in the bonds of $4 million there. Impact fees for sewer, they bumped up a little bit. And I asked Travis, why that would be. And he said it's just kind of the flow of when those fees come in, that there's no really rationale to why that would be. The ambulance department. We expanded coverage to provide for 24/7 day and night shift using part-time employees. The major source of expenditures is operational expenses. And here is the ambulance fund. It's $1.4 million. The primary expenses in that is going to be payroll. The golf fund, again, this is an enterprise fund, self-funding. We put in the entrance gate for $15,000, a ball washer for $5,000, the equipment trailer from the sale of surplus equipment. So they sold some equipment in order to be able to fund this equipment trailer. Flooring for the grill, deck chairs and tables, pass pavilions and fencing, cement, pass and staging areas. The golf fund is 1.8, almost $1.9 million. And you can see the revenue there that's derived, and the offset is the expenditures. The storm drain fund. Citywide curb and gutter improvements. We put in $300,000, and that was a request of the council that we try and keep up with citywide curb and gutter, and that's not going to get us far ahead, but it's a good start to try and improve some of the issues going on with the city. We added $2 million for grant for the box culverts, and here's the storm drain fund, $4.124 million. The internal service funds. Now, these are funds that do vehicle maintenance and IT, and they are funded from all the departments that contribute for these services, and that's how they're funded. The vehicle maintenance budget is $478,000, and the IT budget is $639,000. The revolving loan fund, this is the fund I spoke about earlier, that is funded from all the departments, basically through interest and through repaying loans. One of the things I noticed that has been discussed is the purchase of vehicles by the city, and we hired a really good vehicle maintenance manager. And one of the things he's been doing is buying vehicles and then trying to sell them in a short period of time so we can still get a lot of value for the vehicles. And that's why it looks like we're driving around in vehicles all the time, which I guess there are a lot. At one time, for a couple of years there, we were actually making a profit. It's starting to turn now. We're not being able to get as good a profit off the sale of the surplus equipment. The park tax fund, you can see how that's been allocated, and it's allocated by the park tax committee, and they decide where the funds need to be spent, and this is kind of how they chose to allocate it this year. the general fund. So just for your knowledge, legislation allows 35% of revenue to be stored in the fund balance. That changed, I guess, in the last couple of years. Again, we proposed a tribute taxation CTR to keep the tax rate the same as the previous year. Wage and insurance adjustments have been made. And this is the overall general fund budget of 26.341. If you go down to use of fund reserves, you'll see that we are using $3.14 million of fund reserves to balance this budget. The other funds, BNC, Historic, Scottish Festival, Pete Meets, Sound and Supper, and Payson Community Theater, are in separate funds, so we can track their activities, but we do roll them back into the general fund, and you'll see that in the audit too, if you look at that. This is the offset for all the departments. Each department submits a budget, it's reviewed, and funds are allocated. And again, you'll see those last 4 or 5 departments that are technically set in separate funds, but roll into the general fund. Special revenue funds, capital revolving, we covered revolving loan fund. The redevelopment and the for the town and the redevelopment for the business park were based on property tax a few years ago. We do not receive property tax for these anymore. In one of the funds, we receive cell tower revenue. And the other one, you'll see that there's $900,000 allocated, and that is being funded from the sale of property inside the redevelopment area. One thing that's being used for that is called the makerspace with MTech. And what that is an opportunity for entrepreneurs to come in and try and establish their businesses and try and get them up and working so that they can add to the economy of the city. The park tax we covered, and then we have the park impact fees and the public safety impact fees. Now, as I said, for the park tax fee or impact fees and the public safety, it has to be capital projects, brick and mortar for public safety, and for parks, it has to be significant park purchases. In the capital fund, we actually received ARPA funds. We have some ARPA funds that we still need to expand. And I probably can't remember all the projects we chose for that. It was well number 2, it was the sewer line for the high school, and it was a line coming out of the canyon to provide water. We've also been looking at a downtown project to revitalize downtown and work on that. And I think I've covered the revolving loan fund and the perpetual care fund you'll see there. Transfers and indirect costs. And I think this is the one thing that was spoken about is indirect costs. So basically, each of the departments have to pay, as I've mentioned, for the vehicle maintenance and information, and for a little bit to the general fund to cover services that they would otherwise have to go outside the city to get. For instance, we pay charge the water fund for attorney fees, for development fees, for, so it's an allocated amount that covers those services that they would otherwise have to go outside the city for. Interfund transfers, these are operating transfers to the general fund. Traditionally, we've transferred about 9% of operating revenue over to the general fund to help offset the amount that we do not get in tax from non-taxable entities. There is the operating transfer to the PCT of $7,000. The electric power fund, we're transferring $260,000 to pay for the Utopia bond that was previously expensed out of the power fund. And then we're transferring $405,762 to the water fund to pay for the 4-bay property. Changes to fund balance and enterprise cash reserves. You can see there, this is just a projection. We won't have final numbers until we get through the audit, but kind of a projection of what we expect the fund balances to be for the city. And that's the budget.
Kathy? You've heard the enterprise fund transfers. I'll ask the city council to, for a motion to open a public hearing on what we just heard.
Move that we open public hearing on the enterprise.
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion and seconded, roll call vote started with Council Christensen,
Yes.
Council Carter,
Yes.
Council Beecher,
Yes.
Council Hyatt,
Yeah.
Council Postcard.
Yes,
Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing, with the same understanding that we will be talking about the enterprise transfer funds, and that's not to limit your information share, but that's what we're talking about right now. So if you come and state your name, clearly and be cognizant of time, I'm not going to put a time limit on it. Whether you agree or disagree with what the information that's been relayed to you, and as continuing conversation goes, please don't go over the same information that we've already heard. So we'll go ahead and open up this public hearing.
Is this talking about roads at all? Now?
Well, that was part of the budget. If you would like to talk about that, go ahead and talk about it.
Probably.
It'd be in the budget portion, I would think. It wouldn't be in the.
It'll be in the
fund
next section.
Okay.
Wait.
Yeah,
The next section.
the next time we have public hearing. Sorry.
Oh, it won't be tonight.
It will.
No, it will be
In about
in a few minutes.
They can come up.
Do we have anybody online?
Yeah, Chris Gilmer. Yeah, I say we vote against transferring this money. We're already, if I understood this correct, we're running short on the electric fund, and now we're transferring money from the electric fund into the general fund. 1.4 million from the operating fund for the electric to general fund, right? Right?
That's an enterprise fund.
Right. I'm asking the question.
We're not broke, but we're low on.
Right, I know the justification for the increase was you guys didn't have enough money to.
Well, we couldn't subsidize anymore, right? It was something that we got to the point, well, and we have.
Right.
to pay reserve.
But now we're taking 1.4 million from the electric fund and putting it into the general fund.
Did Doug Wilton leave us?
You did.
Yeah.
No. He actually sat down and figured this out. And this, I mean, to be completely honest with you, is kind of a loophole that allows us to tax non-taxable entities. Is a little bit of where it comes into play. Because churches and schools and other entities of that nature use these funds, and it helps to balance it. And when Doug was on city council, he went back through and figured it out the other direction. And if we were to take these little fund balance transfers that we take out, we would have to raise the taxes to cover this deficit that would occur from these. And then that sits on the citizens as a whole, rather than the community as a collective. And so these are kind of, that's where we're getting out there, and the state has approved us to do these little bits of transfers to try to help balance that budget, so that Taylor Elementary School right across the street is paying into this electric fund because they use a lot of power. And then we can use that to cover where it would be otherwise. Otherwise, all of this funds that are being transferred back and forth would have to be added to our overall tax burden.
I just think it'd be interesting if the individual departments had to operate on what they were making. Right? So the electric fund would survive off whatever they're making, right? And the general fund would survive off whatever the general fund gets. Right? I think you would be able to say to the department heads and the city manager, I want you to go back and cut the budget based off last year's budget. I want you to cut 10%. And it'd be a whole lot easier to figure out what everybody's spending. And I think the people in those areas would be held more accountable that way.
Yeah, but if you don't, it help the services, if you don't have enough money to provide the service, you need some help, so.
You're short the electric fund, but you're transferring 1.4 million out of the electric fund into the general fund to support the general fund. What I'm saying, If the general fund can't survive on its own, then you need to reevaluate what you're spending in the general fund. And a good way to do that is to make the general fund stand alone.
Yeah. Well, what Mr. Kilmer says is an idea that's floated around a lot. The problem with the general fund is it's not self-sustaining. We don't receive taxes for the police officers. It's only what you get on property taxes and sales tax. And so to not use the enterprise funds to help fund the general fund, you would, yeah, if it had to be self-sustaining, we'd have to lay off police officers, firemen, administration.
What do our taxes go to then? They don't go to these funds, right?
Yeah, these help our taxes, and it's like.
No, I mean, our property taxes and our sales taxes, they don't go into these funds, right?
No, these are enterprise.
Our property taxes and our sales taxes go to the general fund, right?
Right.
Okay. I have no problem like helping out the general fund a little bit, but my point is that I think we could be more efficient if we took a little different approach. I wouldn't have a problem saying, directors, I want you to take this year's budget and cut it by 10%. Every $1,000 you save, we're gonna give you $500 that you can give to your employees as a bonus. I think we can just take a different approach. I don't know what it is. I'm not in, you know, these guys are in there every day doing it, right? I don't know what it is. I can't tell you what it is, but I think we can do better. And I think if we just continue to just transfer money around, that's how we get to the point where we're making 105,000%, 105% revenue, and we're still not making enough money.
You don't have enough to run the department. Where's the money coming?
Well, they might have to cut the department.
That comes from.
You might have to cut the department.
Well, then that's the services that we can't provide to the citizens.
Right.
We can't do the network. We can't protect the people with ambulance and fire.
I guarantee you, we can be more efficient.
Okay, one example that I'd like to point out is we're talking about the electric fund. We had the northeast quadrant of town go out. Their power was out for a couple of hours today. Now, if we sold our power company to Rocky Mountain, then they would assess those fees, would pay to them, but we would also be at their discretion when they came in to fix that. So West Valley had 1 to 2 inches of rain today. There was on the news, there was 1.5 foot of water running down the streets. Rocky Mountain Power is going to take precedence. There's way more people in that area, so we can take the chance and hope that they come save us when we need us, or we can continue to fund these.
You wouldn't have to sell the electric plant if you didn't transfer 1.4 million to the general fund. If you're short in the electric plant, in the electric fund, you're transferring too much to the general fund. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I'm not in there. I can't. You know, I got a full-time job. All these people got a full-time job, right? That's what you guys are voted for, is to get in there and figure out how we can reduce costs. Right? Not just to bump our taxes up every year. This is part of the problem. I say vote against it. I wish I understood all the specifics, but I agree. I think it's Les Curtis. I think it's a mindset that every time there's a need for more services that we increase taxes. I think the answer is that we go to the non-essentials and look where we can skim. And I'll give you an example. You talked about taking from the parks to the Wilson Elementary, which I don't know why we're doing. I understand it's nice to have a recreational center, but I don't think it's worthy of a tax increase. I don't know what the Christian for Life is. That was 385,000. What is that? The Christian for Life thing?
It's a water line.
That's a water
We
line.
went there and it was a grant that was provided by the state.
And so the city,
We have to account for it. It's revenue.
city agreed to pay for that?
No,
It was a grant to the city.
Oh, I got, okay,
the state gave the money to the city to make sure that water line went in to help.
all right, okay. I think it's a mindset. I think if we have it in our mindset that we're not gonna increase taxes, that we're gonna skim where we need to skim, that's where we'll go. I just want to end with what started our country.
this was also in the letter that over almost, I don't know, 100 or so people signed. So I know if you're familiar with Common Sense, that was written by Patrick Thomas Paine, yeah. That was why we started this country. He mentioned the expense and luxury as well as the oppression of kings. He quotes Samuel. It wasn't unpopular to quote from the Bible back then when we started our country. He said, he will take your fields and your olive yards, even the best of them, and will give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth, that's a tenth, of your feed and your vineyards and give them to his officers and his servants. And if you include federal, state, local, city, we're way over 10%. So I just think that reconsider and just skim where you can just skim. What that gentleman mentioned about 10% cut, I think that's absolutely where we need to go. I know when my family's having problems, we skim. We don't just ask other people to help us spend with our expenses. And that's what I have found that 80% or more people want is no more tax increases. So please just skim and spend more judiciously. Thank you.
And I appreciate your comments, I really do, but our mandate is to take care of our citizens. Many of our departments don't generate money. That's the reason, just a second, I listen to you, please, just 1 second. Many of our departments do not generate money, okay? So our enterprise departments can help with those transfers that we are able to transfer. The police department doesn't generate money.
Absolutely.
Our department doesn't generate money, so we have to make sure that we spend the money that we need to make sure we can protect our citizens. Make sure that the fire department has the equipment they need so they can help with the fire insurance that you guys have to buy from your insurance companies. That has an effect on the rate that you pay for your fire insurance. So all I'm saying is that if that's what the majority of taxpayers wants, then they cannot expect the services that we have to give them because that money just won't be.
And there's some services that some of us don't want, maybe a majority. And one of those is Wilson Elementary, which is 2.7 million. And also you could consider selling some of the 4-bay property. That would be a definite increase in revenue from the sales of the 4-bay.
Then that goes back to quality of life as well. And that there would be some that would be vehemently against citizens that would be vehemently against that.
Then
It's a tightrope that we walk.
let us vote if we're gonna increase on taxes, like we did with the recreation tax.
I appreciate your comments, but I think we need to move on. Yeah, please come on.
Again, I'm Randy Lee Spencer.
Thank you.
Can you go back to the slide where you talked about ARPA funds? And can you explain what that is?
I didn't know you were there.
So with the CARES Act.
Where's that on the screen? Which,
I'm not sure which one. Sorry,
It's
this
toward
is
the first,
very
just go up
small.
some.
Yeah, this is very small. Oh, it does. I don't know.
There is a preview. Did you not see
Where
it?
is it?
Just go 2 up. Go up 1, up 2, and you'll hit previews.
Oh, there we go.
Mhm. That's fine. Yes,
This is the capital fund is outlet. Remember,
Keep going.
was it in the changes?
I think it might have been with water. So you're getting there.
What does ARPA stand for?
You would ask that question 2 years later.
It's part of the COVID money.
It was COVID.
Recovery, yeah, it's the American recovery.
This was the one was passed, what, 2 years ago?
We've been calling it ARPA forever. I think. Yeah, so this is funding that was given to us that we have to spend it in certain ways,
Keep going.
correct?
Yes.
What was it? You had a little thing on the ARPA that was that you transferred from that didn't get finished, and you added the water portion.
I just don't think many people in the room even know what ARPA is. So I wanted to see where that money's going, because that's not money that's gonna continue. So is that,
And there's only certain things we can, with the guidelines that the federal government sends.
Yeah,
there
so-
are certain things we can suspend it.
it went really fast, and so we didn't get to really see what it's being spent on.
We'll try to
So-
get-
Right there.
I'm not seeing it.
It's the second one down. It's the second one down. It's
So
there.
we received ARPA funds, and I can't remember the total amount, but we allocated to 3 specific projects. One of them was a sewer line for the high school. We had to replace that because it didn't have sufficient capacity for the new high school. Another was well number 2 that is going out, so we're finishing up that project this coming budget year. The last was the PI line out of the canyon, needed an extension, a 2-inch line.
Go ahead.
And Travis can give more explanation.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kathy was pretty close. So we had to do the sewer line down 8 South before they repaved it for the state. So that ended up costing us 1.2 million to do, so the high school could have sewer and upsize for some other developments. Like well number 2, we're gonna start construction on in September. That's another $1.2 million project to refab that and bring it up to code. And then the other one was the culinary line out of the canyon, which we did phase 1 of, to upsize it to a 20-inch, and then we're in the design process for a 24-inch line and a 12-inch line so that we can better provide water and keep the pressures from fluctuating to the residents of the city. So that's what, and those dollars can only be spent on sewer and water projects. That was the stipulation. So we can't spend them on anything else but those types of projects.
Thanks for the clarification. I just seen the dollar sign there and I didn't know what it was going to. So that's what I wanted to.
Chris Kilmer again. I've probably said too much. I'll just say this one last thing and then I gotta go. I got water down in Levan and I have to pay the fee on it, right? And when we have when we have to go through and replace pipe and stuff, my fee goes up. But then when we're done paying for it, my fee goes down. The problem with Payson City is we never go down. We just always go up. And I don't know why.
But you've had an offer from the city manager to sit down with them and go over that.
But what I don't know, when they clarify, why can they do it? And why can't Payson City do it? That's what I don't understand. And I told them I'll set an appointment, come meet with them.
Please do that.
But I guarantee you, if we worked at it, we could do the same thing that that little town in Levan's doing.
I'm Carl Timoth, the Recreation Director. I just wanted to discuss briefly the Wilson School, unless if you have a minute, still, maybe not.
Yes, go ahead.
But the school district did approach us on Wilson School that they would be vacating that property within a 10-year period. And that's been discussed for about a 1.5 years behind the scenes because it's a public entity that can't take that out to the public, but they were discussing with the city, since they have the first right of refusal for the property, if we would like that. As we looked at that property, the discussion, of course, was the recreation office will lose space there at the high school. It is too small for us now, and so we would need a bigger spot. We looked at a few places to build a building or add on, We also looked at places here and to who we could relocate and still have a public access point for the recreation office. The other discussion is park space in the north end of town. A lot of our parks, we do have some traditional parks, of course, in the north end of town, Memorial Park being one of those, which is actually still south of the main part of town, as is Wilson. But the city is growing to the south, quite fast, and we've added additional park space in the south. It's limited of what we do have in the north. So that is an opportunity as well to get 7 acres of park space and open space for the public. As that was discussed in the meeting here a few months ago, the neighbors close to the facility or to the school, I guess at the school meeting as well, a neighbor close was like, good, I just don't want it sold and to a developer and apartments put in, which would most likely happen in that locale. But at this point, we can preserve that as open space. And then the other thing is, of course, building a new building would be roughly half of this cost of this building plus the property that we are gaining. And then we are paying for the property as well, partly out of impact fees. Is that correct? Impact fees, which we can only pay for capital projects for the parks. And we also have a limited amount of time to use that money. And that money has come in from the new growth within the city. Anyway, that's a point of clarification.
Thank you, Carl. I'd like to add too, that, the terms we got from the school district are extremely good for the city and the citizens, who hears of a loan that we can pay
Zero interest over 10 years. They said we could pay for it however we would like.
And the district looks at that as an opportunity to pay back to the community. And that's where we got the TV as well. It's the same kind of thing. But it kept coming up as a recreation, like a rec center. And that's not what the intention of Wilson Elementary is. As far as that, it will house the recreation office.
And or be a community center.
Yeah.
And maybe over time that space could be used for a rec center or additions.
And we've got to get healthier retail wise, tax wise to be able to support something like that too. So timing is everything. That's the other thing that, if we want to fund those departments that do not make money, then we are working extremely hard on getting retail stores and different light industry to be able to have that good tax base that can support those kind of things. And so we'd be less and less dependent on the enterprise funds sharing their funds. So it's just a work in progress. It takes some time to get those type of things in place so that we can be more self-sufficient, so to speak.
I don't know, go up there. If you're done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question though. My name's Jake Barker. So I know I misheard you when you said that a new building would cost half of what
Yeah.
this is going, right?
Right.
2.7.
Yeah. It's an estimate of 1.3 if we were to get land and put another building on it, a commercial building. When we built the
Just for the office space. It would be a smaller.
just for the office space.
I would have thought it would have been a lot more.
Oh, yeah, sorry, just for the office space. Let me clarify.
It was a lot smaller building.
For Wilson, for the 13, well, there's more than 13,000.
And so part of the agreement was that we get to move our offices into their school while they still operate as a school.
And we'll
They have
still
bought
operate for
property
quite some time.
on the south end of town to build a school to replace it is what the plan is.
So kind of like the gymnastics and the recreation's already doing down there, using a portion of it currently.
Which will be really nice because then we can increase the gymnastics program. They can leave their equipment out. They don't have to put it away every day. That's kind of what STEM lets buy this. There's things we can do. We can put soccer fields down there. We've toyed with the idea of the dog park that's been requested on so many levels, different things like that we can use this property for to benefit the community. What we do with it probably won't be this group's decision, because when it comes time to make those decisions, it'll be a different group up here. So,
And if we were to delay that decision, nothing is getting cheaper. It's always getting
right.
more
So-
expensive.
Because currently, there's no way we could occupy that entire building.
No.
I mean, the
Right,
rec department take up like a fourth of it.
We've even talked about putting converting part of it and putting the library in there.
Right.
And making the library larger and repurposing what the library is used for now. They're not keen on that. They want a new building, but that doesn't mean they're gonna get it just because they want it.
So there's a lot of flexibility that comes with it.
Sure. So I have a different question regarding what you, Mayor, had said about, the bringing in business and taxes and things like that. So what's the council standpoint on buy local, shop local, all this local stuff now? What's going on?
She's preached on that time and time again. It's a very real thing that we need to concentrate on.
And we're trying to figure out how to keep people here.
Right, right. And you know what? I kind of disagree with it. I think you need all these other businesses and I think I'll still shop local. I'm still gonna go to Ace Hardware
Well, and
for everything that I need, except, you know, some big lumber purchase. If there was a Home Depot here, I'd go there.
Right.
But
doesn't
I'm
mean
still
you
gonna,
should go elsewhere, but
right.
benefits the local economy to do.
I just want to make sure we're not
No, we're not.
cutting ourselves off at the knees to try and save some
Mom and pop shop.
mom and pop shop that I totally,
But at some point,
You can ask, we have a part-time economic development that works to try to bring this stuff in. He's paid part-time, but works full-time. But, like, I'm always handing them, we've sent stuff to people like Sam's Club and Home Depot and Smith's Marketplace, some of these bigger businesses, because the key to keeping and shopping local is to stop giving people a reason to leave town.
Yeah.
And that honestly is where we're at. That's why we brought in the trailer cells. And we worked with them and that was a
Right.
great deal.
and don't get me wrong, as far as the citizens and the city council, I own 3 businesses in town. I own a building in town that has another business in it. So I'm all for shopping local, but I know there's gotta be competition. There's gotta be, you know, and we gotta make money and revenue from other places than just,
but
Where we're doing it.
at some point in time, the traffic is going to get so horrendous that it's going, we want to be able to let people have a opportunity to shop here and not have to deal with some of the drive times that are gonna come.
there's gonna come the discussion of the infrastructure. That's gonna be your roads, your Kent Fountain, you're dealing with that stuff, so. Good luck.
And it's expensive to fix those roads, and that's why, as a council, we said we need to move forward. There are parts of town that are missing curb and gutter. And there is no way that we can go in and say, hey, you have to put this in, unless they add on to their home. Or do a development, tear the house down, things like that. That's what will trigger us that we can force them. And so there's just some of those areas where we're missing those small pieces of curb gutter and sidewalk. That we've allocated $300,000 to try to fill those in. I looked at doing it all at once and it was horrendous. $72 million to put curb gutter and sidewalk everywhere in the city of Payson. So $300,000 at a shot, it's going to take us a while, but we're hoping to get it to increase safe walking space.
Perfect. And one more thing, I guess I'm okay with me personally, I'm not on a fixed income. I'm doing okay enough that I can spend that little bit more money. I understand there's lots of people that aren't, and how do you do it for everyone, right? I mean, you got, because what's good for one might not be good for another, right? But if you do buy that space, which sounds like you are.
We are.
Yeah. I don't want to see any competition with local businesses.
No, that's not the reason for it.
Like potentially what was going to happen at Main Street at the trike shop. Potentially. I just don't want to see it. No, the city shouldn't compete in the private sector.
That's a subject for another night. So, thank you for your comments. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anybody else who would like to talk about the enterprise fund stability transfer?
He doesn't think the city ought to go into the restaurant business like that.
Does he have a restaurant?
Anybody online? Okay, then what we'll go ahead and do is, unless there's any further I'd like to ask the city council to give you a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, starting with Council Prostar.
Yes.
Council
He's the
Hyde,
part-time.
Council Beecher,
He's industrial.
Carter, Council Christie.
He's a nice
Yeah.
guy.
Okay, the public hearing is closed on this
I don't know,
particular issue.
friends talk to him or not.
Any further council discussion? If not, then I'll accept the motion on this enterprise fund plan.
I move that we need a resolution to accept the enterprise fund transfers as they were shown to us.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and seconded, the roll call vote starting again. Council Christensen,
Yes.
Council Carter,
Yes.
Council Beecher. Yes. Council Hyatt.
Yes.
And Council Proskauer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Going on to number 3, public hearing / ordinance fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Kathy.
He's already explained it.
Okay, then we'll,
I move we open public hearing.
I'll second that motion.
okay.
Second.
Seconded. Well, we got 2 seconds.
Well, I had my mic on, so he can't hear.
It's okay. Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded. Roll call vote. Council Proskauer,
Yes.
Council Hyatt,
Yes.
Council Beecher. Yes. Council Carter.
Yes.
Council Christensen.
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the same thing. I believe you've heard the information that Kathy has given us. If there's any of you would like to get some clarification as far as having a public hearing on the matter, please approach the both of them. Address. Anybody online? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what I'll ask the city council to do at this point then is to give me a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, we got somebody? Oh, come on
Yeah,
up.
he wanted to talk.
This is.
Oh, this is the one. Come on up.
Mr. Bishop, train that.
Hey, that's me. Morning, Bishop, the train man, that's right. First of all, I want to say thanks for taking a few minutes for me. We have a problem in town that I have brought up to the mayor. I brought it up to the city, the person that's in charge of the roads, and I've never heard anything from them. It's a dangerous situation. We go on the wrong side of the road to get through it. And I'm afraid that sometime there's going to be a serious accident. I talked to a lady that's had the same problem in a block that she had. She reported it to the city. Nothing was ever done. She went through that. The snow, it snowed, and she went through it, and it almost totaled her car, the front end. They had another person that went through it and knocked off the front end of her bumper. Now, I just want you to hear me out. These places are dangerous. You're not going to fix the roads. I know that, you know that. We don't have the money to do it. But I would say at least take a few dollars to go down and fill these places that are so bad that people are ruining their cars in it. One of them is 200 South and 750. I don't know if you ever even went over and looked at it or not. You said you would. I don't know if you did. I don't know if the lady did. But that place needs to be fixed. Even if they take and get some cement and fill it. We've got to have that taken care of, and I'd appreciate it if you'd look into it. Thank you. Address again.
200 South 750 what?
It's 200 South. And it's 100 West. No, wait a minute. 700 West, 100 South. 100 South. Yeah, where, well, okay, 700, right, just a block away from your house to the north. Yes. And if you'd look into that, I'd sure appreciate it, because I'm afraid somebody, you know, you get these drivers that drive worse than I do. And
No.
hey, don't tell. Anyway, they come around that corner when somebody's trying to get through that and they could get themselves hurt or killed. And it's really dangerous, and I don't care if you fix the roads or not. I wish you would, but you don't have the funds. But I do think that you ought to look into these places that are like that because it is dangerous. Part of the record is we're looking. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Nothing online either. Okay. Council, take a motion to go into public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing about the fiscal budget.
Okay. Roll call vote, start with Council Christensen.
Yes.
Council Corbett.
Over here somewhere.
Richard.
Yeah.
Aye. Council Crowe.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Any further discussion on fiscal year 2023?
As some of the comments have been going on here, you know, to make sure that we're thinking about everything that's involved. Before COVID, the rollover of the vehicles was actually quite lucrative for us. We'd buy the new cars at a government rate, drive them for 2 years, and we would sell them and actually make a little bit of money. And so we were able to keep funding these programs. Kathy, I just want to make sure that as we're going forward, that as we roll those new vehicles over, if that difference where we're actually losing a little bit of money on them isn't countering what it actually costs to maintain and upkeep them and stuff, that maybe we reevaluate that program. Because it does, as the public looks at it and says, whoa, you guys are all driving new cars, you're raising our taxes. We found a loophole that was working great, but nationally they caught on to it and it kind of started to close that door. And so it does change. But if we go out and buy a car and we don't have to put tires on it, we don't have to do any engine work, we don't do any maintenance, we're getting really good gas mileage, and it comes back and at the end we lose $5,000 in 2 years on a vehicle. To me, that's still a win in the long run. And so I just want that as the public's attention, that it's not us just out wanting to put our guys in brand new vehicles constantly.
And I'd just like to add this to the previous city employee that worked there for 37 years. We didn't have that kind of program, and maintenance on it became such a problem that maintenance was not done like it should be. And I don't know, I can count the times on a couple hands at least. So I pulled up to someone's house, had an official thing to do there, went back out to my car and couldn't drive away from the home. So this program not only helps the officers or the employees that have to use those vehicles, it helps the citizens to get the services they need.
Always have we usually have really reliable vehicles because of this. So. Are you ready for a motion? I'd like to make a motion that we approve the fiscal year budget for 2023-2024.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion, has been seconded, roll call vote, starting with Council Crowstart,
Yes.
Council Hyatt,
Yes.
Council Beecher,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Council Christensen.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. We'll go to C. I would like to get a motion from the council.
Move that we adjourn to the redevelopment agency.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to adjourn to the redevelopment agency. Roll call vote, starting with Council Crowstart,
Yes.
Council Hyatt,
Yes.
Council Beecher,
Yes.
Council Carter,
Yes.
Council Christensen.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that passes. Just so you're aware of the repetitive nature of what we're doing is if we have a council that is on the internet, we have to go through the roll call by statute. So that's what we're doing, not just for fun. Completely stop.
Oh, come on.
Okay. So we have changed our roles to directors. Kathy, do we hear from you on this 2023-2024 RDA budget?
I kind of covered the RDA. We have 2 RDAs in the city. Yeah. Mhm.
Wonderful,
What-
thank you.
What are we using in the budget?
Go
Just
ahead.
explain. Or we pay Walgreens?
Right, we have, let me explain.
Okay.
Dave, put it back in my ear, that's good. So on the town RDA, we actually have an incentive program with Walgreens that we return a portion of the sales and property tax that we receive from Walgreens, which has been a benefit because we've come out ahead of that. In the business park RDA, as I mentioned, we're going to have a maker space in there. And the majority of that money has come from the sale of property inside the RDA. For the redevelopment township area, most of the revenue comes from cell tower rental.
just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is a limited way that we can have to help stimulate businesses to come here and keep businesses here. And so, we are limited in what we can do, and sometimes the state legislature even makes that even harder. But this is just a way that we can encourage businesses to come here and benefit from their tax base that we can fund other people. Okay,
I move we open the public hearing for the 23-24 RDA budget.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
And make sure
I
Bob.
have a motion and a second, roll call vote. Council Christensen.
Director.
Council Carter.
Director.
Carter, yeah. Director Christensen, Director Carter. Director Beecher.
Yes.
Director Wyatt.
Yes.
Director Postma.
Yes,
Motion carries. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would do what we've done before, try to limit your comments to what we're actually discussing, and we're not as worried about the time limit, but be conscious of the time. If you would. If there's anyone who'd like to come and talk to us about that, they're certainly within 30 to do so. Not seeing anyone. Oh, come on up. Your heart's still beating fast?
Not as fast. I hope this is on track. We were just talking a little bit about shopping local. Say your name again. Sarah Ogden, sorry. We were talking about shopping local. I realized I don't know anywhere in Payson I can buy chicken food. Do you guys? Nobody? Well, we should bring that to Payson. There's a few large purchases we make every month. Okay, well, we need it here. That's why people are going to Spanish Fork, because the things they need are there. So. Play that too, but then they go to the meat place. Okay, thank you.
I don't know what it is.
People aren't shopping locally. If they don't shop local, those businesses can't get in business. That one went out. That made me feel bad.
Okay. Oh, come on up.
Sorry, I'm being more vocal than I intended to be.
That's okay, that's why we.
Brandy Lee Spencer. You're saying the special revenue and capital, so it got me thinking, my uncle works for Syracuse City and he does investing in stocks and bonds and things for the city's revenue. Does our city have anything like that going on to help bring funding in that's not from taxpayers?
The Dave or Kathy question.
Yeah, we do. You want to?
We actually have a treasurer who is getting certified in treasurer duties, and we're really proud of her. Right now, our biggest investment is in the PTIF. We're getting a lot more interest revenue than we ever have in the past. We're looking at options for like sweep accounts and things like that, that maybe we can get some interest on our checking account and things like that. We have not done any investment in stocks and bonds. Oh, no,
We have
I'm sorry. We do have one investment company for, it's called Morton Investments. I apologize, I forgot about that. That does invest some funds for us.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for the question. Okay, not seeing anyone wanting to come up or online, I'll ask the city council to, for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Director Prosgard makes the motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Okay, Director Carter seconded it, and Director Prosgard made the motion. Okay. So I have a motion and a second roll call vote, starting with Director Prosgard.
Yes,
Director Hyatt.
Yes.
Director Beecher.
Yes.
Director Carter.
Yes.
Director Christensen.
Yes.
Wonderful. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing unless there's any more discussion on the fiscal 2023-2024 RDA budget. I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 RDA budget.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. Roll call vote, starting again with Council Christensen.
Director Christensen votes
Director
yes.
Christensen. Sorry. Director Carter.
Yes.
Director Beecher.
Yes.
Director Hyatt.
Yes.
And Director Prosgard.
yes,
Thank you. Motion carries. I'll take a motion to adjourn from the redevelopment agency.
Hey, before.
So moved.
Well, just 1 second.
Sorry, Bob, I just wanted to interject that I know it seemed like we got a little bit heated and it kind of gets a little bit hairy and we get defensive. But we really do appreciate the comments and the concerns and the things that are said. And we do weigh those out as we're looking at some of those as we hit the cutting room floor and cleaning up the budget and things. But thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate that.
And I'd like to reinforce that too. And sometimes there's precious little that we can do to change the decisions that we make, but I know I want my opinions listened to, and I know you do. And so that's why we go through it. It's kind of a sloppy process sometimes, but we do appreciate you being there. Really, we do.
And I remember one year we had proposed a 25% property tax increase and had a whole room full of people and the conversation shifted to roads. And by the time it was done, we did a straw poll and everybody out there wanted us to raise the taxes to fix the roads, but we couldn't feel as a council that was justified. And so we went and we did the lesser amount to keep things rolling. I regret it now because I'd love to see those roads fixed. I fully agree. I hate it beating up my cars, but we're working on it. But thank you for your input.
I believe I heard the Director Proscard make a motion.
He's a councilman now, though.
No, we didn't get out of there because we interrupted him.
We've already heard the redevelopment, didn't we?
He's still director, right?
Oh,
Yes,
Proscard, you made that motion. Who wants the second?
I'll second that.
Director Hyde seconded it. Okay, so we roll call vote, starting with Director to go out of RDA agency, Director Proscard,
Yes.
Director Hyde.
Yes.
Director Beecher.
yes.
Director Carter.
Yes.
Director Christensen.
Yes.
Okay, lastly, and thankfully,
I thought
I'll
this
take a
was one.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I'll just say, everybody say aye or yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I
better late than never.
We made it before 4 a.m. where